God has made provision for each and every one of us. Understand what I mean by this. I would go home and I was confident because of my parents' love and my love for them. I was confident that I had food to eat. I was confident that there was going to be a bed there. I was confident that my house was still going to be at that location and I could live with a level of security in that environment, a level of security, nurture, and love in that environment. God made it so that my parents made provision for their children. Hear me now. Our Heavenly Father has made provision for each and every one of us. Now, a lot of times people complain, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. Listen to me, hear me now. God has made provision for you. Even though you may not have everything you want, you have life. You woke up this morning. You have an opportunity to participate this morning. God touched you with the finger of life. Your alarm clock didn't wake you up. God allowed you to wake up this morning. He touched you and he encouraged you. And he says, look, I'm giving you another opportunity to express the grace, the forgiveness of sin, the mercy that I have showered upon you. I'm giving you an opportunity today to share it with someone else and demonstrate my love upon the earth to someone else. That's the provision God is making for us. He has provided not only natural resources for us, food and shelter and clothing, but he's also provided spiritual provisions for us. And that's vitally important for us to understand. And we cannot take for granted what God has done for us in our lives. So often we don't appreciate all that God has done for us. Listen, I look back and I reflect on my childhood days and I think about how all of us were able to go to college. If we wanted to go to college, we went basically to private schools when we were in high school, and none of us ran around bucket naked like my children used to say when they were young, but we had clothes on our back and, food on the table, and we led a modest middle income life and lifestyle, but we never were able to take it for granted. We were taught the value of the work ethic. We were taught how important it is to get an education. We were taught how important it was to be self-sustaining in a certain sense of the word. And those things I look back on now. And at that time, I did take it for granted. I did take it for granted that my parents were always going to be there. And I did take it for granted that I could go to my parents and ask them for a couple of dollars and they probably would give it to me. I did take some things for granted. But as I reflect back and as I got older, have a family of my own, I began to appreciate all the stuff they did. And I look back and said, my father was a bad man. He was able to do things that I look back on now because I have to do the same for my family. It's not easy. It's not easy. Everybody can birth children. You could be a sperm donor, but being a true father, a dad, raising children to maturity and to adulthood, that's not easy. But the father, my mother and father, they made provision for their family. God makes provision for you. And we can't take that for granted. God gives purpose. And when I look back on what my parents did for us, they provided education. They took us on trips. They exposed us to various things. And as we learned various things, the more knowledge you gain, the more education you get, more understanding and wisdom that you get, you realize you have purpose and value. They taught us that we out of their love, they taught us that we have purpose and value upon the earth. And that's important. Young people need to feel that they are valued, loved, and have purpose. God does that for us also. And I've come to realize that there are a lot of young people, even as I was growing up, there were a lot of people in my age group that didn't have the kind of family that I had, that were not nurtured in love like I was nurtured. In fact, there are many horror stories that I've heard over my years of child abuse, horror stories that I've heard over the years of sexual molestation, horror stories of young people going home and uncertain if there was going to be food there, young people going home, the doors open, and anybody walking in off the street could have access into the home, and the kid and the child feeling insecure about even living in that house because it was so wide open. So they decided to stay out into the street because they felt safer out in the street than in that home that did not have any kind of security or adult presence. Why? Because the parents were gone off somewhere, and normally we could say, oh well, grandmama will raise the kids, big mama's going to always be there. Well, nowadays it seems big mama's in her 40s right now, and she's getting her freak on in the club. So these kids really don't have any kind of direction and comfort and anyone to give guidance and show them nurture and love. And we wonder why a lot of these young people gravitate towards gangs, when the gangs are the only family that they might know, the only source of protection they might experience, the only kind of love they may get out there in the street.